Swamp Thing, 1989, issue 1, Rick Veitch writing with MICHAEL ZULLI on the art. Or the cover actually just says issue 88, because that's technically what it would have been at the time. So, and there's even ads in the back and stuff. There's an ad at the last page for Batman, the 1989 movie, which is wild. So they've kept...
I kind of love it.
Yeah, they've kept the authentic like time period stuff. So you forgot this existed, Matt. So this is just me.
I did.
All I knew going into this was that this was pulled back in the day. It had been written and maybe even finished. I can't remember exactly to what extent, but it was pulled because it had a controversial element to do with Jesus, right? And I'm not sure if the Jesus stuff is going to recur throughout the entire arc, and I say that because it seems like it's kind of done by the end of this issue. And Swamp Thing is going to do other things, but obviously they weren't going to just skip an issue back in the day, I guess, if this was essential to the story. But anyway, so Swamp Thing's kind of like drifting between worlds and the multiverse at the start of this issue. Like he's kind of in like the multiversal stream, if you will, and he's kind of floating through. And some of the bubbles you see like different versions of characters from different Earths and whatnot. And he's kind of like spiraling towards the center of this multiverse kind of string. Like all the worlds kind of make these sort of strings of like almost like ripples of like a water whirlpool. Anyway,
okay.
We all of a sudden just cut to someone breaking bread and saying, "This is my body," and I'm like, "Wait a minute!" And then he's like taking a sip of wine. "This is my blood," and I'm like, "Oh, we're doing Jesus stuff already." He's talking to his disciples. What's going on here? So the plot of this is like, I mean, I guess if you're super religious, maybe you do find this offensive, but the plot of this is that the three men who turn out to be the three wise men, because they say later on we posed as wise men for his birth. So these are the three wise men who are summoning a demon because they want to get rid of this carpenter who's going around causing trouble and spreading goodwill and all sorts, right? Nazareth, blah, blah, blah. So they raise a demon, and the demon comes out and says something like, "Oh, no mere mortal may lay eyes upon me." And then it reveals that all three of these men have ripped out their eyeballs so that they can't see him. And he's like, "Very well, why have you summoned me?" And he's like, "We need you to take care of this carpenter." So he's like, "Okay, I won't kill myself. I'm a demon. I will influence. I will possess. I will, puppeteer or whatever." Cut to a Roman centurion, right, in bed at a brothel with Mary Magdalene.
Okay. So far checks out.
Right? And basically...
From what I know, I'm not a scholar.
Yeah. And basically, he's like, "Oh, you're the best prostitute in all of the land." And she's like, "Oh, you're sweet. You're my best customer." I almost said that, like that scene from The Room. "You're my favorite customer, Johnny." But basically, she doesn't even charge him because she had such a good time. And she just wants his respect. And in fact, as he's getting dressed and they're being all flirty, she's like, "Hey, there is one thing you could do for me. There's this carpenter, you've probably heard of him, going around, and he's doing stuff, and he's getting a lot of heat. Some of the people are like, demanding that he be arrested for blasphemy and stuff. Could you like make sure that doesn't happen?" And he's like, "You know what? I'm the one they'd probably send to arrest him, so don't worry, I'll let him slip away." And he basically admits, he promises that. However, when he walks out of the brothel, the demon shows up and fires his tongue into his mouth. It's implanting some kind of possession seed or something. And then we cut back to Swamp Thing, and he kind of like gets drawn into the world and basically grows on the tree next to where Jesus is like sitting and talking to people, and then he sits down with his grail and starts, and he's like, "Oh, in the future this is going to be referred to as the Holy Grail, and people are going to think it's important." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I've seen Last Crusade, yes, I'm familiar with the Grail."
That's the cup of a carpenter.
But Swamp Thing like juices himself because he's grown in the tree like a piece of fruit. He juices himself into the cup to give him like some nourishment. That's, I know it sounds insane when I'm saying it.
He juices himself. That sounds so bad.
Well, does it sound any better to say that he squirts out some juice? I mean, I don't think it does.
I mean, that's not the best, but you know, I'm gonna have to go and read this now because this sounds like you're describing like a trip that you had. You know, you got a hold of some bad food, ate it anyways. You're like, yo, you won't believe the show I watched.
Yeah, but he's basically like, oh, I think he can sense that I'm here. Jesus is closing his eyes. He knows I'm here, and they never actually say the word Jesus. I don't think they never actually point out who he is. But
they keep calling him the carpenter, from what you're saying.
Yeah,
right. Like,
and there's several direct references that make it abundantly clear who it is. But also, some centurions barge into the brothel looking for. I think it was Marcus was the Anyway, the centurion who was there before, and there's already another customer in with his hands on the boobs, and she's like, "No, he was here earlier. He left a while ago though." And they find him outstairs. He's been stumbling around. They think he's drunk, but his eyes are all red, and his skin's like kind of off color. He's clearly something's not quite right. And yeah, so Swamp Thing, like I said, grows like some fruit on the end of like a vine and like squirts the juice into the grail, and basically the possessed soldier, when Mary Magdalene tries to talk to him, he just gets aggressive and punches her and sort of laughs maniacally, and it's clear that he's evil now, and like, you know, he's going to go off and arrest this carpenter regardless of what he's promised her. And basically, the Swamp Thing just keeps sort of keeping an eye on Jesus, and he's not actually like willing. He doesn't take a sip of the drink from the cup, and it's not until the centurion shows up and all the rest of it. And they also mentioned that Judas is the one that gave the Romans like the intel, which, you know, that's playing into the lore and all that. But Swamp Thing basically recognizes as the centurion's coming, wait a minute, I sense a demon. I can hear the rhyming. I can hear the demon talk. I'm like coming up to deal with this. So he comes up, and there's a bit of a fight scene where he fights the centurion and pushes him against the tree. But as he's doing this, Jesus chooses to pick up the grail and take a sip of what was there. And yeah, Jesus basically just accepts what's going to happen to him. But during the fight with Swamp Thing, because Swamp Thing, after the drink's been taken, he basically fades back into the multiverse stream. Like, he can't stay here anymore. Mm-hmm. But during the fight with the possessed soldier, the soldier's ear get cut off, and Jesus picks it up, and the demonic ear turns into a human ear. You know, kind of like he's turning, you know, water to wine, all that sort of nonsense. And Jesus, before he gets taken off and arrested, goes up to the possessed soldier, puts his hands around him, and just kind of, like, I don't know, initiates a purge of like the demon that's been put inside him. Mm-hmm. So basically, this intercuts with the main demon who did all this grabbing the three blind men and eating them, because he's pissed now that this has happened to his like demon child that he's put into the soldier. So he shoves the men into his mouth, and that intercuts with the possessed soldier spitting out a little demon child out of his mouth onto the ground, right? And as it's doing this,
what is this book?
There's a reveal here, right? Where as he's eating these three blind men, the demon says, "You've cost me my only son, only one whose destiny was to the reign of the Prince's Hell, Etrigan." So the demon that the centurion spat up is little baby Etrigan. So I don't know if this is canon. I doubt it somehow, but I mean, looking at the main demon, there's a bit of an Etrigan look to his face. He's got a bit more going on as well, but you know, it's not a wild leap, so you can see it. And then you get like a montage of Jesus being whipped and put in a cross, and you know, full page spread of him.
The passion.
Yeah, doing the whole crucifix thing. And then Magdalene's back with the soldier who's all apologetic, and she somehow just kind of knows, oh, it's okay, you were possessed by a demon. I'm like, okay, I guess. I guess Jesus slipped her word. Like, hey, by the way, your new boyfriend, he was possessed. Don't be mad at him. And that's the whole thing. Yeah, and also part of the reason for this, Swamp Thing mentions, is that a mysterious kind of like not crystal, but like rock or mineral is what sent him into the multiverse, and you kind of see that in the Grail at the end, like the whoever picks it up like takes it out of the cup, and it's implied to be tied to all this. So I don't know if there's going to be more religious stuff in the following issues necessarily with this, but the issue ends with Swamp Thing in the multiverse stream, but he's looking at the middle of the multiverse, and it's Jesus's face in like the sort of the nucleus of this multiverse stream.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what to make of the meaning of any of this. It's almost like it's trying to say that like the idea of Jesus, like it's almost like it's trying to insert Christianity into like the DC multiverse and say it's relevant to the entire multiverse or something like that. I don't know how to take that. But weird, you know, and it is someone who is just an atheist. I don't know what to even make of it. I have to admit, I was entertained at points though when it's like the three men saying that they were posing as wise men at the birth, and Mary Magdalene having like weird nude scenes with a soldier who's like going to go and do things for her. Like, I was kind of into the absurdity of a lot of it and the kind of the shock value of it. I don't know what to really feel about the actual intent of the story by the end, if I'm being completely honest. I'm like, okay.
I mean, it seems like it's a backdoor origin for Etrigan as well.
Yes, that's the other part of it, yeah.
I wonder if there was plans for that because Constantine came to the page of the Swamp Thing, right?
That sounds right, yeah.
This was them trying to do all of that, the magical side of things.
Yeah, I wonder if the idea here is that because Jesus kind of like made Etrigan get spit out, that's inherently why Etrigan is not as bad as other demons or something. Like, he's been touched by Son of God kind of thing. I don't know.
Well, and then his entire story with him and Jason Blood goes back to Arthurian legend and all that type of stuff. So them trying to put a religious bent on that too. The whole idea of knights and whatever. I can see again, this makes sense in the term of 1980s comics, right?
Yeah, it makes sense to tie Etrigan, and I suppose if you want to tie, because Constantine deals with magic and stuff, if you want to tie that to that as well. It's maybe not what I would want from a Swamp Thing story necessarily, though.
True.
So, yeah, not sure how to...
So when you said he was growing, I was like, are they going to turn him into wood for the crucifix?
No.
That would have been... Oof. And he said he just juiced himself, so, No.
Oh, I can't wait till Marvel do that Guardians of the Galaxy special where Groot supplies them with the crucifix.
Yep.
Anyway, I mean, it's interesting, and I did kind of like the art. It's kind of got that old school art kind of thing where there's a lot of extra little details on the faces and stuff like that, so it feels quite moody. Even the clouds are quite scratchy with a lot of like extra lines for texture and that kind of thing. It feels of that era, feels of that time.
So was this entire thing shelved, or are they just working off of the script from that time? So I was like, was this art that was sitting there as well?
I think so.
Time?
I mean, it looks of that era. I mean, I don't know if they I don't know how much of it was finished at the time. I don't know if maybe they had to finish some of the last issues or something like that. Like, I don't know how, I don't know how many, is this 4 issues, 6 issues? Were they all completely written and drawn? Maybe maybe they just needed colored when they got cancelled. I don't know.
Because again, I understand why something like this in 1989 would have been shelved. For as edgelordy as stuff could have been back then. I get this causing an uproar, although through our 2026 lenses, it's not that bad, and it still hits the theme of what I feel like. And when you're touching on some of these religious elements, it doesn't show the Carpenter in a bad light, at all. There's nothing I would say blasphemous at all. It's the surrounding characters.
Yeah.
Maybe DC just at the time was just like, we don't want to mess with this.
If anything, the attitude of that character specifically is just that, oh, I need to go through with what's about to happen. Nothing can get in the way of it, which seems to be his attitude. So, yeah. I don't know. I guess there was just a fear of touching it at all, and even trying to imply or tie continuity to, like, Etrigan was born from the soldier who came to arrest them. I don't know. It's a bit weird. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. It was definitely one of the more interesting things I read this week, and I did like, for all the like not really knowing how to feel about the story, I did think it was written well, and I enjoyed like the dialogue and the pacing of it. So, it was nice. It was almost like a nice teaser for the next Patreon book we're doing, which, if you don't know, guys, Swamp Thing by Alan Moore won the vote, so we'll be starting that, the first issue of that this month, which is, I think, issue 20 or whatever it is. It's the first issue in volume 1 of Alan Moore's Swamp Thing collections. Right. But we'll be doing that on Patreon. Anyway, this issue, I think I would give this, like, I think I'd maybe even go as high as an 8, because I think it was enjoyable to read, even though, like, what it's actually doing with the Jesus stuff by the end, like, like, how do I feel about that? I don't really know, because I don't even know if it's going to come up next issue. Maybe, like, each issue is going to try and tie in a different thing of mythology into, like, weird Swamp Thing lore or something. I don't know, but
yeah, this was just, so I'm reading the solicit, and it was, these were just the this is after a renowned 2-year run in the series. His grand finale to Swamp Thing was cut short. So it feels like they're just finishing whatever that was.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know if he's going to do like a whistle stop of whatever, but it does feel like we'll get the conclusion to that. What starts is more. So it is weird that they're reading them out of order like that.